Good morning and welcome to today's service, which will be chaired by the 6th through 8th grade class. Welcome back, Reverend Smitty. Today we will observe our monthly SHOTSUKI service for the families and friends who lost a loved one this month. We will begin the service by having the fruit and floral offering presented by the 3rd through 5th grade class.
Thank you. Please put your hands together for silent meditation led by Reverend Smitty.
Gasho. Let us move forward with faith in ourselves, in our intelligence, in our indomitable spirit. Let us develop respect for all living things. Let us try to replace violence and intolerance with understanding and compassion and love. Dr. Jane Goodall. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
At this time, we will observe our October SHOTSUKI HOYO. Reverend Smitty will now read the names of the people who have passed away in this month. If you have a loved one who passed away this month, please come up and offer incense. If you have a loved one passed away and their name is not read, you may still come up and offer incense. If your loved one would like to be added to the SHOTSUKI HOYO list, please contact the office.
Sally Ishihara. Rosa Gomez. Mio Hill. Tomio Ota. Roy Yonikura. Chieko Moriyama. Hiroshi Kubota. Kisae Ohara. Reverend Teshi Oyama. Mary Suyenaga. Teruko Hobbs. Kimie Date. Raymond J. Sakao. Robert Susumu Sasaki. Tatsuo Richard Kashima. Yusaku Kuroiwa. Tom Tomotsu Sugioka. Takashi Mayumi, Tadashi Kitano, Aiko Moroka, John Inoue, Frank Doi, Ayako Kaminaka, Yoshinori Tsuneyamatsu, Emi Himaka Shimizu, Tsuruko Louise Osaki, Toyoko Yonekura, Nancy Tsukiko Imai, Minoru Takasugi, Haruno Maekawa, Chiseko Oya, Tadashi Yano, Aiko Tachiki, Betty Harvey Teague, Tomi Yada, Jimmy Shinohara, Charlie Torio, Helen Haruyo Kawahara, Mutta Kawahara, Michie Kuro Iwa, Ritsuko Abe, Haruye Tsunoyoshi, Fujie Ochi, Roy Hosaka, Shimako Hanaoka, Hatsu Shibata, Matsu Kusaka, Katsu Yamaguchi, Mine Imai, Gen Iwasaki, Sam Sugita, Kasuke Hashiguchi, Kotono Takashi, Ume Tsurudome, Mitsuye Sugioka, Fukuyo Matsumoto, Tomoyo Kuwada, Takeshi Monji, Toshino Hamano, Zentaro Asaman, Koichi Fujii. Kanzo Okuni. Tsuneichi Samashima. Kazuye Himaka. Otoshichi Ochi. Tsuneichi Hirata. Katsue Takashima. Nobuzo Kida. Reverend Guzei Nishii. Jinkichi Yamasaki. Ito Fukamizu. Soichi Azuma. Masaichi Yamada. Tatsujiro Yonikura. Yasako Nakamura. Itsuemon Tanaka. Ikichi Ito. Again, you're invited to come forward and make an offering of incense today, whether I read the name of your loved one, friend, relative, or not.
We will now begin the chanting of Jusei Ge. Please open your service books to page 35.
Chosegan Ishimujodo Shigan Fumanzo Seifujo Shogak Gao Muryoko Fuidai Seishu Fusai Shobingu Seifujo Shogak Gashi Jobundo Myosho Chojipo Kukyo Mishomon Seifujo Shogak Ryokujin Shonen Joe Shubongyo Shigumu Jodo Isho Teninshi Jinriki Endaiko Fu sho musai do shoujo san kumyo kosai shuyaku nan kai hichi egen meshi kon mo an heisoku sho akudo tsudaten zen shumon koso jo manzok ioro jipo nichigaten shujuki tenko onpugen ishukai hozo kosei kudoku ho jo dai shuchu seppo shishiku kuyo isai bud gusoku shutoku hon gan e shinjo man oku isan gai o nyobuten nugechi tsudaten mi husho gan gaku erik toshi sai shoson shiganya koka daisen okando koku shotenin touchin myoke Gasho namanda 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 namanda.
Please stand if you are able to and put your hands together for the recitation of the golden chain. Wait. Oh, page 90. Okay. Do I start? I'm a link in Amita's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amito's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you. You may be seated. Reverend Smitty will now give us the Dharma message.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody here today. For me, it's good to be back at Temple and sharing the Dharma with everybody. And if you didn't miss me at all, that's actually a good thing, because that means that everybody else here did a wonderful job in sharing the Dharma with you. So, not a beat was missed in my absence then. So as we begin this Dharma talk, please join me in Gassho. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Okay, who recognizes those lines I just read? Yeah, all the Dharma School students better have their hands up. I expect some of the adults should have their hands up too. It, of course, comes from the golden chain, of course. And the full recitation can be found on page 90, as we've just learned, in our purple service book. And to me, in some ways, the golden chain is a recipe. It's a recipe for perfect peace or universal happiness. It seems these days that we encounter so many unkind words and hateful deeds and selfish actions and, mean speech. There's even movies like Mean Girls. Who's seen that? Yeah, some folks have. Yeah, and that's kind of become almost the norm of, that kind of behavior, those kind of words that are used. So it's good to be reminded of that recipe for countering hate and selfishness and meanness. So today I'd like to share with you a similar recipe for perfect peace or universal happiness. And this one is found in a story titled Stone Soup. So this particular version of Stone Soup was written by John Muth in 2003, and it's set in China. And the original story of Stone Soup is actually a very old one, much older than 2003, even though 2003 might seem like a really long time ago to some of you. And it originated as a European folktale, with the earliest written version appearing in France in about 1720, so over 300 years ago. And the characters vary from version to version, but the basic message of Stone Soup remains the same. And in the story of this book, 3 Buddhist monks, Hok, Lok, and Tsao, traveled along a mountain road. And they talked about things like hat whiskers, the color of the sun, and giving. So what makes one happy, Tsao asked Hok, the youngest monk. So old Tsao, who was the wisest, said, "Let's find out." And the sound of a bell brought their gaze to the rooftops of a village below. And they could not see from so high above that the village had been through many hard times. Famine and floods and war had made the villagers wary and untrusting of strangers. They had even become suspicious of their own neighbors. The villagers worked hard, but only for themselves. There was a farmer, a tea merchant, a scholar, a seamstress, a doctor, a carpenter, and many others. But they had little to do with one another. And when the monks reached the foot of the mountain, the villagers disappeared into their houses. No one came to the gates to greet the monks. And when the people saw them enter the village, they closed their windows tight. Kind of sounds to me as if the villagers are really untrusting of strangers, so much so that they literally decided to shut the monks out. And the monks came along and knocked on the door of the first house. There was no answer. Then the house went dark. And they knocked on a second door, and the same thing happened. It happened again and again from one house to the next. You know, that type of unfriendly reception kind of reminds me of trick-or-treating when I was a kid. And some people would turn their lights off as soon as you started walking along their sidewalk or toward their door. But anyways, this is not a case of trick-or-treating. The monks all agreed that these people do not know happiness. But today, said Sao, his face bright as the moon, we will show them how to make stone soup. Then the monks gathered twigs and branches and made a fire, and they placed a small tin pot on top and filled it with water from the village well. Well, a brave little girl who had been watching came to the monks. "What you doin'?" she asked. "We're gathering twigs," said Lok. "We're making a fire," said Hōkai. "We're making stone soup, and we need 3 round, smooth stones," said Sao. The little girl helped the monks look around the courtyard until they found just the right stones. Then they put them into the water to cook. "These stones will make excellent soup," said Sao. "But this very small pot won't make much." "My mother has a bigger pot," said the girl. And the little girl ran home. As she started to take a pot, her mother asked what she was doing. "The 3 strangers are making soup from stones," she said. "They need our biggest pot." Said the girl's mother. "Stones are easy to come by. I'd like to learn how to do that." Of course, with the prices of groceries these days, I'd like to learn how to make soup with stones too. The monks poked the coals. As smoke drifted up, the neighbors slowly started opening their windows and peered out. The fire in the large pot in the middle of the village was a true curiosity. One by one, the people of the village came out to see just what was going on and what this stone soup was. So I guess their interest in these odd sights, sounds, and smells overcame their suspicion of the 3 strangers that they saw in their courtyard. Of course, old-style stone soup should be seasoned well with salt and pepper, said Hōkai. "That is true," said Lok, as he stirred the giant pot filled with water and stones. "But we have none." "I have some salt and pepper," said the scholar, his eyes big with curiosity, and he disappeared and came back with salt and pepper and even a few other spices. Sao took a taste. "The last time we had soup stones of this size and color, carrots made the broth very sweet." "Carrots?" asked a woman from the back of the gathering crowd. "I may have a few carrots, but just a few." And off she ran. She returned with as many carrots as she could carry and dropped them into the pot. "Do you think it would be better with onions?" asked Hōkai. "Oh, yes. Maybe an onion would taste good," said a farmer, and he hurried off. He returned in a moment with 5 big onions and dropped them into the bubbling soup. "Now that's a fine soup," the farmer said, and the villagers all nodded their heads, and the smell was very agreeable. "You know, I hate to be picky or overly critical at this point, but I would have preferred if the villagers had peeled and chopped up the carrots and onions before tossing them into the broth. But, maybe that's just me. But anyway, we continue with Sao saying, "But if only we had some mushrooms," and he rubbed his chin. And several villagers licked their lips. A few dashed away and returned with fresh mushrooms, noodles, pea pods, and cabbages. Something magical began to happen among the villagers. As each person opened their heart to give, the next person gave even more. And as this happened, the soup grew richer and smelled even more delicious. "I imagine we should add dumplings," said one villager. "And beans," said another. "What about cauliflower and broccoli and yams?" cried some others. "And taro root and winter melon and baby corn," cried other villagers. "Oh, garlic and ginger root, soy sauce and lotus root. I have some, I have some." And people cried out, and then they ran off, returning with all they could carry. And the monks stirred and the pot bubbled. How good it smelled, how good it would taste, how giving the villagers had now become. At last the soup was ready, and the villagers gathered together. They brought rice and steamed buns. They brought lychee nuts and sweet cakes, and they brought tea to drink, and they even strung up lanterns. Everyone sat down to eat. They had not been together for a feast like this for as long as anyone could remember. It sounds a lot like temple potlucks to me. And after the banquet, the villagers told stories and sang songs and celebrated long into the night. Then they unlocked their doors and welcomed the monks into their homes, giving them very comfortable places to sleep. In the gentle spring morning, everyone gathered together near the willow trees to say farewell. "Thank you for having us as your guests," said the monks. "You have been most generous." "Thank you," said the villagers. "With the gifts you have given, we will always have plenty. You have shown that sharing makes us all richer." "And to think," said the monks, "to be happy, joyful, and peaceful is as simple as making stone soup." So, to summarize, when the people of the village only thought of and cared about themselves, they were individuals who were pretty unhappy. They were suspicious and selfish and hateful and resentful and mean. That was their recipe for unhappiness. But when the monks came to the village and fooled the people into thinking that soup could be made out of stones, things changed. The villagers set aside their hatred and suspicion and selfishness and started to share or give what little they had. They came together as a village, not as separate selfish individuals, and their happiness grew. The villagers found themselves thinking kind thoughts, saying kind words, and doing kind deeds. And the monks didn't so much trick the villagers into this, they simply shared the truth with the villagers. They shared the Dharma with others. So good thoughts, good words, and good deeds led to kindness, sharing, and giving. And it was a recipe for happiness, joy, and peace. Please join me again in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Thank you, Reverend Smitty, for your Dharma message. It reminds me about when I helped my mom make soup by peeling the carrots and chopping onions. Please stand if you are able to for the singing of the Gatha Namo Amida Butsu on page 122 of the service book. When life is fair and sunlight glitters, When fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, off let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namo Ami Dabutsu. And through our way leads a darkened sky, and to our love one's pain and death draw nigh. Our tears may flow, yet trustfully we cry, Namo Ami Dabutsu. When our life leads us to the other shore, and Buddha's light we'll see forevermore, and then Butsu, our grateful hearts shall soar. Namo Ami Dabutsu.
You may be seated. Please put your hands together. Whoopsies. Okay. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namo Amida Butsu. Namo.
You may remain seated. Okay. Are there any announcements? Okay. If not, I have a few. Okay. A second. Okay. So, Feeding San Diego. The Dharma School is having a volunteer event for families and Sangha members to help at Feeding San Diego in a couple of weeks on October 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. Please sign up on the Feeding San Diego website or ask Dharma School Assistant Superintendent Miss Kimberly to help you sign up. Only those 6 years and older can participate. The Stuffed Animal Drive. The Dharma School is collecting new stuffed animals to benefit the Ronald McDonald House Charities. The last day to bring your stuffed animal will be next Sunday. Please drop your stuffed animals in the box, which will be next to the foyer adjacent to the office. The temple's Halloween party will be on Saturday, October 25th, so please mark your calendars. Please come in your costumes as service will begin at 5 p.m. and our Halloween party to follow, with games hosted by the Junior YBA. For the potluck, we are asking families in the Sangha to bring a side dish, salad, or dessert. Today is the last day to register for the Southern District Buddhist Conference, which will take place on October 25th at the San Fernando Valley Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. BTSD will pay half of your registration fee if you are a dues-paying temple member. For those who have signed up or will sign up today, please head to the office after service and select your top 3 workshop choices and lunch option. If not, Mr. Rolfe will make the decision for you. The BWA Brittle and Popcorn Fundraiser and Punko Sale. Our temple's Buddhist Women's Association is holding a couple of fundraisers. First, the BWA is having a Punko Sale as proceeds benefit next year's Federation of Buddhist Women's Association Conference, which will be hosted right here in San Diego. 12-ounce bags of Punko cost $3 each and can be purchased from any BWA member. With the holiday season right around the corner, the BWA is also having its annual brittle and popcorn sale. Pre-orders are currently available for delicious almond brittle popcorn, and sweet hots. The order form can be found in the temple office or in this month's issue of the temple newsletter. Orders will be available for pickup after our Itaikyo service on Sunday, November 9th from the Brittle Lady, Miss Margot. And the final one, The second origami workshop will take place next Sunday, October 12th, following adult service and Dharma School classes in the conference room. Everyone is welcome to attend to make cranes for the 100th anniversary special art project. There will also be instructors at the workshop. Thank you. Okay. There it is. Okay. Now, we would like to thank these people for their assistance with today's service. Reverend Smitty for officiating this morning's service and your Dharma School message. The certified minister's assistants are Rubia and Yukari Williams for setting up the Onaijin and getting it ready for our service. CMA Yukari Williams for ringing the concho, Mr. Schmidt for providing the music for us, the tech team for live streaming the service, and to all of you for attending today's service. The Dharma School students are now excused to offer incense and go to their Dharma School classes.
We will now start the adult portion of the service with the Vandana and Tisarana on page 96, led by Reverend Smitty. We will recite it together.
Please begin chanting from the beginning with me, all parts, whether they're labeled as leader or sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Yasho Namanda 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 Namanda.
Reverend Smitty will now give the Adult Dharma message.
Well, good morning again. I don't know if you noticed, but the young adults of Dharma School 6th through 8th grade did not go to their class. They've remained here to be part of the adult portion or the second half of our service. So that's something that doesn't usually happen. And so we need to behave ourselves today so they don't get the wrong impression, okay? Just wanted to mention that. So please join me again in Gassho as we hear the words of Shinran Shonin from The Lamp for the Latter Ages, letter 19. Human beings are such that, maddened by the passions of greed, we desire to possess. Maddened by the passions of anger, we hate that which should not be hated, seeking to go against the law of cause and effect. And led astray by the passions of ignorance, we do what not should even be thought. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. You know, Shinran Shonin wrote those words to his followers over 760 years ago. And they were addressed to people living in a world that was intensely polarized and fueled by anger and distrust and even hatred for others. The biggest difference between then and now is that today people can blast the poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance out over social media so a wider audience can feed on hatred and conspiracy theories. My talk for the kids was a little more subtle on the three poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance, but they're obviously at work in our world and in our country today. And just as they did in Shinran's time, these poisons are causing immense suffering. Sadly, I've had the opportunity while I was at home recuperating, I saw that violence was becoming the norm, not the exception. And recent instances of political violence in our country this year, in 2025 alone, include the murder of a conservative political activist, the fatal shooting of Democratic State Representative and her husband, the arson attack on a governor's residence while the Democratic governor and his family were inside, the targeting and shooting of an ICE officer outside a detention facility, an arson attack on a state's Republican Party headquarters, and the shooting attack at CDC headquarters. We see others not as having different views or different political beliefs or even just different leanings, but instead as enemies. And we're dehumanizing people with hateful rhetoric. So why are we doing this? When will this stop? And I figured as long as I'm telling stories today, I'd like to share one with the adults too. No, it's not quite as pleasant or perhaps tasty as the tale of stone soup. That's because this story comes from the Twilight Zone. So that should set the tone for you. You know, I watched this episode not long ago, and even though it first aired in March of 1960, I think its message holds up over time and can speak to us as well as Shinran Shonin's letter did hold up over time and speak to us. And this episode is titled The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, and it was the 22nd episode of the first season of The Twilight Zone. And it begins with a narrator telling us that we're viewing Maple Street, USA in late summer. A tree-lined little world of front porch gliders. You know what a front porch glider is, anybody? Okay, I figured the adults would, the kids, that was a little iffy, but hopscotch, the laughter of children, and the bell of an ice cream vendor. We see the view of a good humor man and two small boys who are standing alongside him just buying ice cream. The narrator continues, at the sound of the roar and the flash of light, it will be precisely 6:43 p.m. on Maple Street, and neighbors wondered aloud if what flew overhead was a meteor. And the narration continues with, this is Maple Street on a late Saturday afternoon. Maple Street in the last calm and reflective moment before the monsters came. So the story is about one late summer afternoon, and Maple Street is full of children playing and adults talking and doing yard work, when this shadow passes over, accompanied by a roar and a flash of light, and everybody notices, but they kind of assume it's a passing meteor, and then they just resume their activities. I guess they didn't hear about the dinosaurs and all that stuff, but that's okay. The residents soon discover that their power went off, and it was affecting some stoves and lawnmowers and cars and phones. Remember, these aren't cell phones, they're just, old-fashioned rotary phones, and even portable radios. And they gather in the street to discuss the situation. Pete Van Horn volunteers to walk over to Floral Street to see if it's been affected. And his neighbors, Steve Brand and Charlie Farnsworth, decide to go into town to investigate further. But Tommy, a neighborhood boy, urges them not to go. Tommy has read a story of an alien invasion causing similar issues and says that the monsters don't want anyone to leave the street. Tommy adds that in the story, the aliens are living as a family that appears to be human, but are actually scouts for the invaders. And the power outage they caused is to isolate the neighborhood. Well, the adults are basically incredulous, assuring Tommy that the cause is natural and not something as far-fetched as what he's imagining. And another resident, Les Goodman, tries unsuccessfully to start his car. However, after he walks away from the car, it starts by itself. And this is in the days well before having a key fob. You just press the button and the car would start by itself. This makes the neighbors suspect that Les may be an alien. As they all gather, one woman brings up Les's late nights spent standing in the garden looking up at the sky as if waiting or looking for something. And Les, defending himself as a resident of Maple Street for 5 years, claims to suffer from insomnia and admonishes his neighbors that they should use caution and not panic. And Steve tries to defuse the situation and prevent it from becoming a witch hunt, but the tensions really remain high. And as darkness descends, Charlie begins keeping a watch over Les Goodman's house. Steve suggests that Charlie go home to bed. Another neighbor, Dawn, mentions that Steve has built his own radio set, which Charlie then claims no one has ever seen. As suspicion mounts, Steve's wife protests that it's a simple ham radio, but Steve sarcastically answers that he talks to aliens with it. Steve and the other neighbors continue to argue, using each person's idiosyncrasies as evidence that they're aliens. And Steve then warns that such behavior, that is, looking for a scapegoat is the surest way for the entire neighborhood to eat each other up alive. Now, a shadowy figure approaches the residence, which Tommy exclaims is the monster. Claiming it may be necessary for protection, Don obtains a double-barreled shotgun that Steve immediately confiscates from him. And as the figure gets closer, Charlie panics, taking the shotgun and shooting the figure. And upon reaching the fallen figure, they realize that it's Pete Van Horn, who had gone to see if Floral Street had power earlier, and he's now dead. As Charlie struggles to defend his hasty action, the lights in his house come on by themselves, causing the residents to turn on him. And Don suspiciously asks Charlie why his power is restored, while Les rebukes him for being so quick to kill and accuse, suggesting that Pete has found proof of Charlie's extraterrestrial origins, and that the latter shot the former to silence him. And even Steve doesn't advocate for Charlie, outraged by his senseless murder of Pete. Charlie then makes a break for his house, and everyone is chasing him, throwing stones, one of which smashes a porch lantern, and this causes the broken glass to fly at Charlie's face, cutting him on the forehead. Now terrified, Charlie attempts to deflect suspicion on the young boy Tommy. Charlie said, It's the kid. It's Tommy. He's the one." Well, his mother is quick to defend Tommy, saying, That's crazy. He's just a little boy." And several neighbors agreed with Charlie's idea, as Tommy was the only one who seemed to know about the aliens' plans. Steve continues to try to defuse the situation, but no one listens. And lights begin flashing on and off in houses throughout the neighborhood. Lawnmowers and car engines start and stop for no reason, and the mob becomes hysterical, hurling accusations, smashing windows, and taking up weapons as the situation devolves into an all-out riot. Meanwhile, at a nearby hilltop, we see a metal spacecraft which sits shrouded in the darkness. A door opens and throws out a beam of light from the illuminated interior. Two figures silhouetted against the bright light appear. We get only a vague feeling of form, but nothing more explicit than that. The first figure says, "Understand the procedure now? Just stop a few of their machines and radios and telephones and lawnmowers, throw them into darkness for a few hours, and then you just sit back and watch the pattern." The second figure asks, "And this pattern is always the same?" To which the first figure replies, "With few variations, they pick the most dangerous enemy they can find, and it's themselves. And all we need to do is sit back and watch." Figure 2 responds, "Then I take it that this place, this Maple Street, is not unique." And the first figure shakes their head and says, "By no means. Their world is full of Maple Streets, and will go from one to the other and let them destroy themselves. One to the other, one to the other, one to the other." The shadowy figures then ascend a stairway into their spaceship, which takes off. The narrator closes out the episode with the chilling observation that the tools of conquest do not necessarily come with bombs and explosions and nuclear fallout. There are weapons that are simply thoughts, attitudes, prejudices, to be found only in the minds of humans. For the record, prejudices can kill and suspicions can destroy, and thoughtless, frightened search for a scapegoat has a fallout all of its own. And the pity is that these things cannot be confined to the Twilight Zone. So, unfortunately, the monsters aren't confined to this fictitious Maple Street. The monsters can potentially be everywhere, among us and even within us. We may all recognize the destructive nature of greed, hatred, and ignorance in the world and in our own lives, and turn to the Dharma, hopefully, instead. May the light of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing and compassion guide our thoughts and our words and our actions so that we might think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. Please join me again in Gassho. Human beings are such that, maddened by the passions of greed, we desire to possess. Maddened by the passions of anger, we hate that which should not be hated, seeking to go against the law of cause and effect. And led astray by the passions of ignorance, we do what should not even be thought. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, 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 Namandab.
Thank you, Reverend Smitty. Thank you, Reverend Smitty, for your message. Please stand up if you are able to for the singing of Odoksan 2 on page 128.
Please put your hands together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please be seated and put your hands back together for closing music meditation. If one walks looking far ahead and pays no attention to the ground beneath his eyes, he will stumble. If one gaze is critically upon others and forgets to look into himself, he will bring tragedy upon himself. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo
Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo
We would like to thank you for attending today's service. Please stay up here to listen to a Japanese Dharma message given by CMA Yukari Williams. You may now offer incense.
それでは日本語法話を始めます。合唱をお願いいたします。十方未尽世界の念仏の主情をみそなわし、摂取して捨てざれば、阿弥陀と名付けたてまつる浄土和さん、数限りないすべての世界の念仏するものを見通され、収めとって決してお捨てにならないので、阿弥陀と申し上げる。ナマンダーブスナマンダーブ皆さんこんにちは。今日は、私の日本語法話に来ていただきましてどうもありがとうございます。今読みましたのは、親鸞上人がお書きになった浄土和さんです。親鸞上人はこのご和さんを76歳の時から書き始められたそうなんです。それでだいたい全部で500首ぐらいの、ご和さんを残されたということなんですね。すごいですよね。76歳から書き始めて500首も書かれたそうです。それで、このご和さんで親鸞上人は何を私たちに教えてくださるかというと、阿弥陀如来のことです。阿弥陀如来は限りない光と命の仏様です。そしてこの阿弥陀如来の光は宇宙全体に届いています。だから私たちがこの宇宙の中のどこにいようとも阿弥陀如来の光は私たちに届きます。で、私がこう思ったんです。この親鸞上人が阿弥陀如来の光っておっしゃっているのは、阿弥陀様の本願力の力のことだと思うんですね。だから私たちがこの宇宙の中のどこにいようと、阿弥陀如来の本願力は私たちを包んでいるということだと思います。そして親鸞上人はもう一つ教えてくださっています。たとえ私たちが阿弥陀如来に背を向けようとも、でも阿弥陀如来は私たちのことを諦めたり捨てたりすることはしませんって親鸞上人は教えてくださいました。私はこの言葉が好きだなと思って、なぜなら私も結構長い間阿弥陀如来のことを忘れていた時期がありました。阿弥陀如来に背を向けていた時もありました。だけど今はこうしてお寺に来ているし、お念仏もしているので、阿弥陀如来は私のことを諦めなかったんだなって思います。ところで皆さんはこの阿弥陀っていう意味は阿弥陀という言葉はどういう意味があるのかご存知ですか？この阿弥陀っていうのは、これはサンスクリット語なんですね。で、サンスクリット語っていうのはインドの古い言葉です。それで漢字で書く 阿弥陀っていうのは全く意味がなくて、音だけ取って漢字で表しているので、漢字の意味は関係ないです。ただそのサンスクリット語の意味は計り知れない仏様、無量仏っていうことになります。サンスクリット語と英語っていうのは語源が同じだそうです。ルーツが同じだそうです。だから英語であっていうのがプリフィックス、接頭語でその言葉を否定する。例えばapolitical とかasocial とか、そういうなんていうの、amoral とかそういう言葉ありますよね。で阿弥陀っていうのも同じで A プラス弥陀の方がミーターとかメジャーなので計り知れないで、阿弥陀如来は計り知れない仏様という意味になります。それで何が計り知れないかって言ったら、光、計り知れない光と、それから命です。またサンスクリット語で阿弥陀如来のことをアミターバ、アミタユスブダっていうんですね。でアミターバの方は限りない光の仏様っていう意味なんです。でアミターバのこの限りない光、この阿弥陀如来の光は普通の光とは、普通の光っていうか太陽の光とかは全然違っていて、本当ねすごい光なんです。例えば太陽の光だったら私たちが壁の後ろに隠れてしまったり、地下室に入ってしまったり、またなんか洞窟の中に入ってしまったら、太陽の光は私たちに届きませんよね。だけど阿弥陀如来の光は私たちに届きます。何も妨げられない光なんです。日食って分かりますか？日食、ソーラーエクリプスって分かりますか？それだと月が太陽の光を隠しちゃいますよね。だから昼間でも空が暗くなって、そして星とか出てきますよね。だから太陽の光は妨げられることがあるんですけど、阿弥陀如来はそういうことが全くないんです。素晴らしい、私たちの想像を超える光なんです。でさっきも言ってたように、この光っていうのは私が思うに阿弥陀如来の本願力の働きのことだと思います。それからもう一つ、阿弥陀如来はアミタユスブッダとも言われます。これもまたサンスクリット語です。限りない命の仏様、そして阿弥陀如来の命はもう永遠でずっとある命です。だから私たちのこと、私たち昔も今も、昔の人も、それから今いる人も、それから将来に生まれてくる人も救うことができるし、一緒にいてくださることができます。だから今も私たちは阿弥陀如来の光と、それから光に包まれていて、そして将来も阿弥陀如来と一緒にいることができます。だから阿弥陀如来は光と、それから場所と違いますね。阿弥陀如来は時と 場所を超えた仏様ということになります。さっき言ってたように、たとえ私たちが阿弥陀如来に背を向けようとも、阿弥陀如来に背を向けようとも、阿弥陀如来は、私たちのことをなんていうの、捨てたりしないって言いました。で、私自分の話を今からちょっとしようと思います。私子供の頃は結構阿弥陀如来と一緒に毎日過ごしていたような気がします。お寺で経営する幼稚園にも行っていたし、それから、阿弥陀様のことを、のの様とか呼んでいました。でも大人になってからなんかいろいろ考えてしまって、である日こんなことを思いました。阿弥陀如来って誰かが作り上げた仏様なんじゃないのって思いました。阿弥陀如来ってフィクショナルな仏様なんじゃないの？だから信じられないわなんて思ったことがありました。それから、阿弥陀如来を忘れていた時期が結構ありました。全然念仏もしない時期もありました。結婚して子供が生まれてとても忙しくなって、それでフルタイムで仕事もして、また仕事で成功したかったので、大学でディグリーを取ろうと思って学校にも行きました。だから毎日すごく忙しかったです。だから阿弥陀如来のことを忘れていました。で、面白いって言っちゃおかしいんですけど、日本に住んでいる私の母が私に手紙をくれた時に、サンディエゴにお寺があるから行きなさいって言っていました。で、ちゃんと住所まで書いてくれました。だけど残念ながらその頃はこのお寺にお参りしたことはなかったです。あと、私は前にランチョバナードの方に住んでいたんですけれども、私の子供はビスタで日本語学校に行っていました。それで毎週金曜日、私の娘とそれからその友達を乗せてビスタまで行っていました。日本語学校はビスタのお寺と同じ場所にあるんですね。だけどビスタのお寺にも残念ながらお参りしませんでした。だから私はその頃は全く阿弥陀如来に背を向けて生きていました。阿弥陀如来がでもそんな時でも阿弥陀如来はいつも私のそばにいてくださったんだと思うんです。ただそれが私には分からなかっただけです。でも阿弥陀如来は私のことを諦めないで、私のことを捨てなかったので、だから今はこうやってお寺に来ているし、また念仏もしています。今日は阿弥陀如来について話しました。阿弥陀如来は限りない光と命の仏様です。そして私たちのそばにいつもいてくださる仏様です。そしてもし私たちがたとえ阿弥陀如来に背を向けようとも、決して私たちを捨てたりしない仏様です。 今日は私の話を聞いてくださいましてありがとうございました。終わりに蓮如上人のご文章を読みます。上人一流書を現代語で読みます。親鸞上人の開かれた浄土真宗の見教えでは、信心が根本です。そのわけは、自力の働きを捨て、一心に阿弥陀如来に帰命をすれば、思いも及ばない優れた本願の働きによって、如来が私たちの往生を定めてくださるからです。往生が定まったその位を一年発起入生上始終と示されています。そして信心を得た後に唱える念仏は、如来が私の往生を定めてくださったご恩を報じる念仏であると心得るべきです。今日はどうもありがとうございました。では最後にもう一度合唱をお願いいたします。ナマンダブツ、ナマンダブツ、ナマンダブツ、ナマンダブツ。